Trish Hennessy-Webb with the Watershed Stewards Academy, presenting Steward Capstone Budgets, Keeping Track of Your Finances. Each steward will develop a budget to accompany their capstone project. This presentation should provide you an overview with what you will need to be successful. You will learn a few basic financial guidelines, how to create your budget, and how to use your budget as you begin your capstone project. Along the way, you will have check-ins with your capstone mentor confirming that you are on track. Your capstone budget is a planning tool. It will allow you to list out all your expenses and all your funding sources for your project. There are many different types of budgets out there. For your capstone project, you will use an Excel template to create your budget. In your folder, you will find a budget template to use throughout this process. The next few slides will walk through the template. When you open your file, this is the spreadsheet you will see. You will use this template to record your capstone project needs and how you plan to pay for those. As you can see, on the left side, it asks you to enter what you need for your project. And on the right side, it asks you how you're going to plan to pay for your project. Your capstone budget is divided into three main categories. Contractual services. This is where you would capture services that you plan to pay for as it relates to your project. The second area, plant materials, which is further subdivided into smaller subsets since many nurseries will ask you to provide this information. And the final category, other supplies, is where you will capture all your other additional expenses as it relates to your capstone budget. Items such as coffee for volunteers, signs, and mulch. Now that you have listed all the items you need for your project, you will begin to capture details about each of those items. You will start on the left side of the sheet and complete the additional information for each of the items that you listed. You'll begin to capture details such as how many plants you think you will need or how much you think the cost to hire a contractor for your project. This is your opportunity to plan out any contractual support, any materials you might need, and any other supplies in order to create a successful project. Now that you have entered what you need for your project, you will move to the right side of the spreadsheet and begin to identify how you plan to pay for each of those needs. Your spreadsheet provides a few standard funding options. Your project is not limited to the funders listed in the file. Rather, these are the funds most stewards use. If you have a different funder, you can add them to this section. Please remember, many of the funders have restrictions of what you can purchase with their funds. For example, some funders only allow you to pay for native plants. Check with your capstone mentor along the way to confirm that your budget is on track. And finally, as a last reminder, many of your funders will require you to keep your receipts and turn them in. So as you go through with your project, make sure you're keeping track of your receipts. Now that you've entered all your planned expenses and your planned funding streams, you'll need to verify that everything adds up. At the bottom of your spreadsheet is a built-in budget summary. At a quick glance, you can see if you will still need to raise more money or perhaps put a plant or two back to allow your project to stay in budget. Once you complete this, you will submit it to your capstone mentor who will give you final approval that it's good. Now that we've walked through the various elements of a budget, stewards will begin to create an initial budget. It's your big picture budget. This is the opportunity for you to capture your estimated cost and your planned funding streams. This preliminary budget will be due March 30th with your capstone project proposal and reflection part 2. This is your big picture. Once you complete that, as you get closer to actually your project and you've started to identify actual costs based on the design of your project, you will move into developing a detailed budget. This budget will capture all of your costs, your actual costs, quantities of materials, and your funding sources. And your capstone mentor will be there to be the one to provide a final approval of that budget. Now, the last step is to implement your budget. So the next few slides will walk through the final steps of how you will use your budget to record all your expenses. Now that you have an approved Capstone budget, you will need to keep it as a reference. Therefore, once you're ready to start your project, your first step will be to make a copy of your budget and rename it, Tracking Capstone Expenses. You will use this new tracking expense file to record all your invoices and any changes that come up during your project. Your template is already set up to record your project expenses. The last two columns of the spreadsheet, highlighted in orange, will be where you record your receipts or your expenses. You will enter the actual amount that it costs. So in this example, Bob's excavation services, you would enter in the actual amount of the invoice that he sent to you. In addition to this, you can also capture any items that you forgot in your original budget or you've incurred along the way. For example, delivery cost of trees. You can add a row to the spreadsheet and record the purchase under the expense. These last two columns will allow you to record how much you've spent and track how much money you have remaining in your budget. A few key takeaways. Remember, you're not alone. Your Capstone mentor is there to help you and provide guidance. And remember, your Capstone tool is a budget to help you stay on track.